And no one's ever picked me for being a private investigator. I just look like a grandmother, out and about, doing some shopping.
Welcome to I Spy. I'm crime reporter Natalie O'Brien, and this is a podcast about the mysterious and dangerous world of private investigators. In this episode, I'm talking to super sleuth Marea Smith from the Blondell Group.
But I've always been a sticky beak, but now I get paid for it.
A career private investigator whose favourite PI is Agatha Christie's lovable busybody, Miss Marple.
Is that you, Inspector? Miss Marple here. Please forgive the lateness of the hour, but as it happens, I have the evidence I've been looking for. I know who the killer is.
Marea has dealt with wise guys, mafia-related families and organised crime figures. She admits there's been times when she has been scared for her life.
I've had to slip under garage doors. I've hidden behind garbage bins. I've, a woman walking in with her pizzas and I was watching her and I had to go and serve documents on her. So I just put the documents on top of the pizza box because she wouldn't take them.
Private eyes get asked to undertake all sorts of investigations. Marea is also licensed as a debt collector. That involves tracking people down. It would be fair to say most people are not happy to see her. Once she finds them, she has to serve them with court documents. During the course of her career, that would have included tens of millions of dollars. And it can be a very nasty business.
Certainly, I've been called many names, including fat slut.
That is very offensive. How did you respond to that?
Oh, I just said you're served and walked away. It's just part of my job.
Do you get that a lot? Do you get people abusing you a lot when you serve them with court papers?
Yes, quite often. And then on the other hand, some people are so shocked they don't know what to do, and that's when I skip away pretty quickly.
So you've come across a lot of shady characters when you've been serving them. What are some of the other reactions that you've had apart from the abuse? I mean, I take it the abuse is a common response. Do people try and run away or hide, or
they deny who they are? But most of the times I have a photo of them, and yes, I've had a fellow just pretend it wasn't him, but seeing I had a photo of him and I just put the papers through the window of his car and I said, yes, it's you, all right. I've never had anyone run away, but I've been assaulted by Mr. Businessman in North Sydney. I was just serving him documents, and because he said that I tricked him, as it was a secure building, so I snuck in and managed to get to where he was. And then when I served him, the smile left his face pretty quickly and he started grabbing at me, pushing me back, and he cut off my exit to the elevators. So then I went straight to the North Sydney Police Station, had him charged with assault.
That could have been a very scary moment, couldn't it?
It was totally unexpected because he was Mr. Businessman. I expect that from people out in the bush where, a lot of bad people are, but not Mr. Businessman.
Some potential clients are not always truthful about their reasons for hiring a private investigator. So investigators need to be on their guard. In one notorious case, it has come to light that murderer John Edwards hunted down and killed his 2 children after using a private investigator to track down his ex-wife. He had pretended he wanted to know his wife's movements so that he could check if she was seeing someone else and taking his kids. We now know that was a lie. He wanted to find them, to kill them.
A coroner has found the tragic deaths of 2 Sydney children shot by their own father could have been prevented. Despite having a history of domestic violence, John Edwards was able to gain a gun licence before murdering son Jack and daughter Jennifer in their West Pennant Hills home.
Marea had one such potential client who wanted her to find his ex-partner. She asked for his reasons why, but when she heard them, they raised red flags for her. After some investigations of her own, Marea suspected he wanted to find his ex to hurt her, and she did not take the case. It's a real risk for investigators determining if clients have ulterior motives.
You've got to you've got to check everything out, because they may just be fabricating the story so that they can find the person to hurt them or even kill them.
Have you had clients that have lied to you about the reason for engaging a private detective?
Yes, I have. They've asked me to find someone, and it wasn't for what they said it was, for serving papers. It was to actually harm the person. But I didn't take that job.
Was that because you got a feeling about it, or you checked on them?
No, I checked on them. They said it was going to be a service of family law documents, and that I could check with their solicitor. And I did check with their solicitor, and it was, in that occasion, it was okay. But on the previous occasion, I suspected that it wasn't above board what they were telling me. So I didn't take the job.
Some of Marea's debt collecting jobs have taken her to remote and isolated locations on her own. In one of her scariest moments, she found herself in the middle of nowhere with no exit path.
It's been in properties, it's been in the bush. I've been, when I've gone to serve documents, someone has hemmed me in with their car, and they wouldn't move it. They kept looking at me. It was a fellow, and he kept looking at me and just leering and looking back at me, and I was in the middle of the bush. I was so scared, but I just said, "Move your fucking car," and he did. He was very sneaky about the address where he was. So in the finish, I just pretended I had a delivery for him, and I phoned him, and he said, he can meet me here, at that certain address. Well, there was nothing there, just bush and a shed. But I pulled in, and then he came in straight after and parked right in front of my car, so I couldn't exit.
What did you think when he parked in front of your car? Were you immediately thinking about, how am I going to get out of here?
I had to keep thinking, but acting tough at the same time. I said, "I'm just doing my job. You're served." And he kept looking at the papers and then looking back at me, leering, and then looking back at the papers, and I felt very uncomfortable, but I didn't let on. That's when I told him, "Move your fucking car."
One of Marea's most hair-raising cases started innocently enough with a request to serve documents on a family who were in the flower growing business. It turned out to be a family who were related to a former mafia boss.
My uncle, he was owed some money, and he asked me to, go and collect the money from the family. And of course, I looked the address up, and I went round there doing reconnaissance, and it was like a fortress. It was completely surrounded by high fencing, locks, padlock gates, everything, and just these little white huts in the background. I gathered that's where the flowers were growing. So I thought there's no way I'd be able to get in there. So I rang them and I said, "I've got a delivery for you." And they said, "What time are you coming?" And I said, about 1:30, which is about half an hour away. And they said, "All right, we'll open the gates for you." So when I drove there, they opened the gates, and I go in, bipping the horn as if I'm part of the family or something, and made sure that it was a circular driveway, that I turned the car around facing out, and I left the car running. I went up to them and just served the documents.
But Marea has also been called the debt collector with a heart, particularly after she rescued a dog that escaped while she was serving a bankruptcy notice.
I've had a lot of successes, but I've had a lot of funny incidents as well. I was serving a bankruptcy on this fellow, and I went to the house, and he opened the door, and he had two little kitties with him. And at that time, the dog ran out. And everyone's calling out, "Charlie, Charlie," after the dog. And, of course, I'd served him the papers, and he just closed the door, and Charlie's gone. So I just went out and sat in my car and I thought, you've done your job, that's it, just leave. And then I thought, no, if Charlie gets killed, it's my fault. So I went looking for Charlie, ended up finding him, picked him up, brought him back, and they were ever so thankful. And I just served him bankruptcy papers.
So you've also, I think people have sort of said that you are tough talking, and you've said that you act tough. Is it the case that you're dying inside when you say these things?
Only if I'm scared. Most of the times I'm not. I'm tough.
There was a time when Marea was asked to serve debt collection documents on a colourful character with a bad reputation. Despite knowing what he might be capable of, she agreed to go through with the job, but she did try and warn off the client.
Apparently he had some money to to the plaintiff that I was going to be working for, and he said, no, I want the money collected. He ripped me off from the property I was going to buy. And I said, all right, are you sure? Because after I'd done searches on him and found out exactly what happened to his last partner and the last person that owed him money and, blowing up houses and killing people, I just said, are you sure you want to go through that? After I'd sent all the cutouts to this client, and he went, oh, no, just forget it. I said, I thought you might feel like that. But I was quite willing to still go down and serve.
That's very brave.
Well, it's only a job. You're not the person asking for the money.
And then one of her funniest jobs turned serious very quickly. Someone had been vandalising a monastery in an outer Sydney suburb. Marea and her then business partner, Catherine, kitted up for an all-night surveillance stakeout with balaclavas and night vision goggles. But all sorts of things ended up going awry.
It was on acreage, and it was an abandoned monastery, and it was dilapidated buildings and pretty scary place, waist-high grass, and we were supposed to be there from 5 o'clock at night until the following day. And we were in balaclavas and all in black. I was hidden under a rusted-out trailer. My business partner at the time, Catherine, she was hidden in a bush. The one time I was there by myself, Catherine was running late, and a fellow came on. We were told who it was that they suspected. He'd put swastikas on the driveway for Anzac Day. He'd put sand in the oil tanks, and he'd put hoses through the windows over a weekend, which absolutely warped all the floors. But this monastery had a chapel in the middle, which was left open all the time for anyone to come and pray if they wanted to. And anyway, this one night I was there by myself, as I said, and I saw this fellow coming onto the property, and anyway, he had a dog, and so I rang the caretaker and I said, does the suspect have a dog? He said, no, he doesn't. I went, oh, okay, so it must be just someone walking on the property. But then I started hearing smashing sounds and water running. And I thought, oh, he's put the hose through the windows again. So I took off running out by the side of, right round one side of the building, looking at all the windows, nothing. And then I cut through the middle of the building where the chapel is, and I saw someone just put their first foot in through the door. And I said, don't fucking move. I had my camera going the whole time, and this guy shit himself, honestly. And I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I didn't know what to say, and he wasn't very good with the English. So, and whenever we're on surveillance, we always ring the police beforehand, let them know where we're going to be in case we need them in a hurry. So I called the police came within minutes, and they interviewed the fellow, and they said, what are you doing here? And he says, I come to speak to Mary. And he said, Mary who? Mary who? And I said, I think it's the statue he's come to pray to, the statue of Mary. And he goes, oh, okay. And while he's standing there, the hand dryers come on in the toilets and no one's in there. And of course the police officer just looks at me and looks at his buddy and he went, I don't want to be here. But the suspect had gone into the toilet block, which was on the other side, and smashed all the toilets and hand basins.
But you must have scared the hell out of the other guy who'd just come to pray with your balaclava on.
Yes, exactly, because he wasn't expecting that, I'm sure. But he did tell us that he did see the suspect running from the property. He passed him as he was stepping foot into the chapel and missed him by seconds. But the police did go to him and interview him and told him not to come on there anymore. So
stakeouts are just part of the job for private investigators, and Marea has done a lot in her time. She knows better than most they don't always go to plan.
One time, the same job again, I was surveilling the driveway. They had two entrances to the property, and the priest's house was near that entrance that I was surveilling. Everything was quiet, nice little quiet cul-de-sac, fabulous. Had my little curtains up in my car, got my night vision goggles ready, everything perfect. Then some people came home from the house opposite. Then they all had a big riot started. Chairs, tables flew out the doors across the street, hit my car, and I'm there going, and the police know I'm here, so then all the police cars come. It's about 6 police cars. I thought, any minute the paratroopers are going to come. I'm there on a nice quiet surveillance, and that happens.
A key to undercover work is the ability to blend into the background, not to stand out, and the ability to change your appearance quickly.
So I've got a bat phone, and usually I better not say who I usually am. That's the phone I use to find people, get them to call me back, and give me their address, which a lot of them are very kind and helpful to do.
As you have heard, Marea's tools of the trade include night vision goggles and hidden cameras.
Oh, night vision goggles, just like daytime. It's fabulous. You can see everything.
She has used them on all sorts of jobs without her target even realising.
Yeah, surveilling another fellow. I'd been watching him for months, and I used to follow him home from work. I used to follow him to the pub, 2 different pubs. Then he'd be going to court, and many occasions. And on the last occasion, I actually sat next to him, and I thought, if only you knew who I was.
Were you surveilling him? Was that to find out his movements or?
Well, he was in a relationship with the client, and he was playing up on her. That's how it first started, but he was also violent. So he's got a few AVOs out on him at the moment. The last one being in the Supreme Court when he was charged with a very serious offence, and they had him that he was applying for bail, and that was just over a week ago. And I sent an email to the courts asking that he not be released and gave the reasons why. And and he was denied bail. Thank goodness.
In a case with a really unusual twist, Marea became her own client. She suspected her partner at the time was cheating on her, so she went to work. I can't imagine what he was thinking.
It's very funny because how dumb was he to cheat on a private investigator for a start? Anyway, I did I started seeing different things, the normal things. They start looking after themselves, start new underwear, start working out, get the body in shape. And and I thought, something's going on. Anyway, I end up finding all the little messages, and when I confronted him, he said, "Oh, nothing's going on," and I said, "Yeah, well, it won't be any more." And I found out who it was, so I confronted her. I just said who I was, and she said, "Oh, really? Well, what's up? And I said, well, did he tell you what I do for a living? And she goes, no. I said, well, he should have, because I'm a private investigator and I investigate cheaters. And she said, oh, I'm married. I'm a married woman and my husband's very violent and nothing's happened between us at all, nothing. And I said, oh, yeah, well, I did find all the little, receipts you've been giving him when he's asked for a balance on his account. And she goes, oh, nothing's going on at all. I said, well, I'm telling you this. I'll give you one chance and one chance only. And take heed of this because I don't fuck around with me. And I said, there's to be no further contact. We're going to sell the house. And until that time, there's to be no further contact. And she said, oh, there's no contact with us at all. And I said, yeah, right, okay. Meanwhile, I just felt things weren't right. He kept leaving his phone out, and I thought, that's strange. It's got to be another phone. Got to be a second phone. So I went searching. Found condoms in his fishing basket, so I proceeded to pierce every one of them and put my business card in the box. And quite a few other things, but I found the second phone. And there was the message on there from the princess saying, she came into my work and I nearly lost my job over it and all this sort of stuff. And anyway, so I got on to the second phone and I just sent her a message. I said, hi, princess, guess who this is? You fucked with the wrong person. I gave you one chance and one chance only, and that was it. Meanwhile, I didn't hear back, obviously. Meanwhile, the house was sold. We split up. I moved to Chain Valley Bay, beautiful place. And as soon as I moved in, I rang her husband. And I told him what she was up to and that I had all the proof if he wanted it. And he goes, oh, well, gee. I said, this would usually cost you about $1,000, $1,500. But for you, I'm doing it for free.
If you've ever harboured thoughts about becoming a PI, Marea has tips for anyone wanting to go into the business.
Oh, that's something I was taught at the very beginning of the course, and that was prior preparation and planning prevents piss-poor performance. And believe you me, I've done the last 3 quite often, but I've done the 6 quite often as well. Well, some things you could start and it'll just be something, just very normal and that, and then they can just take off in a car and you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to follow them, and if they go through a red light, you've got to go through the red light too. You can't lose them.
So how would you get ready for that? Will you always have your car filled with petrol? Is it things like that, or
always?
Or have disguises with you? Do you keep them in the back seat or something?
I've done that. I've actually had the disguise on, and then you strip off halfway through with a totally different outfit underneath. Turn your bag inside out. There is a lot of tricks to the trade, and one time I was trying out a new pen camera. I just got it in the mail and I thought, oh, this is pretty good. I've got a serve to do tonight, so I'll use this. So I stuck it in my shirt and turned it on. Yeah, it doesn't show any lights or anything. Great. Went out. And he was a very tall man, so I was kind of leaning back and sideways to make sure that I got him on camera. I got home, downloaded it, and I'm going, I can't see a thing. I can't see a thing. And I said, just some brown spots. And I'm going, I had it on back the front. It took the freckles on my chest. So you do have to trial everything before you go.
So you have lots of different sort of tools of the trade. I think you've got a pen camera and you've got glasses with a camera in it. Is that right? And
a wristwatch that's a camera and handbags that are cameras.
You're the girl with everything.
That's right. And no one's ever picked me for being a private investigator. I just look like a grandmother out and about doing some shopping.
Marea knew she wanted to be a private eye from the time of the infamous and still unsolved Wanda Beach murders.
2 15-year-old girls have been savagely murdered in sandhills at Wanda Beach, south of the city. A record-breaking cash reward is offered in a desperate effort to find the killer.
She was at the beach the day the teenage girls disappeared and were murdered, and she was there the day their bodies were found. She and her brother believed they knew who killed the 2 school friends, and they told police, but they were fobbed off. Now there is renewed speculation about a person of interest who was a teenager at the time of the crime.
Now, after more than 40 years, police are still on the trail of the Wanda killer. But despite all the leads they've received, they continue to look for a silent witness who might have vital information.
I was at the beach both days, the day that the girls were murdered and the day up when they were found. And since then, yes, my brother and I, we keep saying, you know, they should investigate this one person that we said it is. He was a teenager at the time, and he always carried a knife in a little sheath on his on the side, and he was crazy. So, and he was at Wanda also. And now they're saying, when we first told the police were tunnel vision. And they said, no, we know who it is, and it's a man in jail and all this. And now, last night on TV, they said, we still think it's a teenager. And I'm going, oh.
So that was the moment that you started thinking about detective work?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's when it all started. But I've always been a sticky beak, but now I get paid for it.
Tell me, what is some of your craziest jobs? I think you've had a client who had a gun held to his head. Is that right?
Yes, I have. And yes, he was only talking to me last night. He's had a gun held to his head, in his ear and up his nose as well.
Marea's client has been the victim of document forgeries, and he's had his assets stripped before being forced into bankruptcy. Behind the scenes, the real story was unfolding, and it wasn't pretty.
There's a lot to do with money laundering, drug importation, a lot of things.
Marea doesn't have a monopoly on crazy cases, but she sure has had a few. One man didn't know what was good for him. He was being played for a sucker, and Marea tried to convince him otherwise.
Yeah, we've had a lot. One said that he got ripped off by a prostitute. And he said, oh, no, but she had, I only lent her the money because her mechanic rang me and said, no, she's having a car fixed. And I said, it wasn't a mechanic. It was a boyfriend or a pimp or someone, you know, like that's how she kept getting the money from you. And she's a prostitute. So, yeah, good luck with getting the money back there.
It was a sting.
Oh, of course. And he kept falling for it. You know, and I just said, oh, it's only so much I can do. Yeah, but this one, because she never answered the door, but I did manage to serve her. I went up there with a laundry basket full of laundry and knocked on the door and went, yahoo!
Looking like a grandmother with her laundry.
Of course, she opened the door and I went, oh, served.
Getting people to accept documents can be tricky. Marea uses a variety of disguises so as not to attract attention. She was having real trouble serving one woman with documents because she would never answer the door. So she had to come up with another idea.
This one, because she never answered the door, but I did manage to serve her. I went up there with a laundry basket full of laundry and knocked on the door and went, yahoo!
Looking like a grandmother with her laundry.
And of course she opened the door and I went, oh, served.
Some of her jobs can be really scary, especially when one of the players turns up with concrete boots, as they say. No,
there was another thing where they were bringing drugs in handlebars of Harley-Davidson bikes, and the fellow that owned the Harley-Davidson bike shop, they used to take the drugs out, and then he'd put the bikes together and sell the bikes. Well, he didn't want to do it anymore, so he ended up dead. So
He wasn't your client though, was he?
No, he wasn't my client, but he did end up dead. And now this is all part of this current investigation. This is just so many parts of it that it's mind-blowing, and a lot of people high up have a lot to answer for.
In the next episode, his specialty is murder. Michael Rumor knew he had to be careful when he was asked to work on the high-profile murder of sex worker, drug addict and whistleblower Sally Ann Huckstep. He was wading into Sydney's seedy underworld, and he had left instructions just in case he disappeared.